I got a guitar for Christmas, you know, begging. The Beatles had just come out. I was in junior high school, and it seemed like the coolest thing to do. And I was playing guitar, you know, thinking about a song, and I seriously had this flash thought. It's like, somebody makes these. I wonder how they do it.
Yeah, right.
And
it's like you never considered that before.
No, it was just like, wow, somebody makes this. How did they do that? So the next thought was, I'm going to find out, and I'm going to take it apart and see. The premise of the company was never to be the next Martin, grow to be a big brand. It was that idea of building custom guitars in the violin tradition, and just doing the best that we could, you know? And that really fit my model. I never thought of guitar making as a business.
Right.
Just like I don't think of these trees as guitar parts. It was what I loved to do. It was great to do. And left foot, right foot, we started having to support the habit and turned it into a business over time.
So why the culture of kindness and empathy and inspiration? I mean, obviously it's good business, but it's got to come from somewhere deeper than that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, what's your problem?
Yeah, what's your problem with being nice to people?
It comes from a problem. Both of my mentors, when I asked them, you know, what can I do to pay you for your time and teach you? Can I like paint your house or build a fence or bring beer? You know?
Yeah, right.
And both of them independently said, no, you just pass it on to others in the same spirit. We're kind of staging here. We get woods from literally all over the world. This is from up the north, you know, going up really far north in California. And this is from the Nolo River that goes into the sea. And this was a tree that would have fallen from natural causes, tipped into the river, floated down, got hung up. And in that cold water, it's an anaerobic environment, so it's not going to decay. It's preserved. It won't fossilize or petrify.
Now, how did you get a hold of that piece of wood? I mean, how do you, somebody call you, Richard, there's a tree that fell. Do you have
I hope so.
Alert?
I'm counting on that. So all of these woods come mostly through small families that I have personal relationships with. They're not really in the food chain of the marketplace.
Okay.
You know, from a tree cut goes through a broker, ends up in a lumber yard, and is sold to us. There's stories behind all of them. This is reclamation. I'm saying more of our general stock. And this would come from like the raft or a bridge piling or a sunken log. There become quite a variety of where this can come from.
Wow.
But it's all old reclaimed stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
Here we've got a crazy selection of different woods. Redwood, mahogany, Adirondack spruce from the northeast U.S. This is the 3,000-year-old Sitka spruce.
3,000 years old.
Yeah.
So now, where did you get this?
It comes from a fellow and his family that we've dealt with for many years, Brent Cole. And Brent's family really specializes in reclamation. They do, you know, controlled cutting for other industry, but for us, they're looking for old stuff, and it can be reclaimed from a dead tree, a sunken log. The lumber industry, let's say go back 100, 150 years, they would go in to cut a section of forest indiscriminately, and they weren't the highest thing on the food chain. Right. There was grizzly bears out there.
Right, yeah.
So they would lash together a bunch of fallen trees, and these, you know, native spruce could be, you know, 12 feet in diameter. Wow. They'd lash them together, and there'd be the cookhouse, the barber shop, and you slept out there, you know, so you didn't get eaten. And then when they were done with that, they walked away, and eventually that broke up, and the outside of the tree, the bark and the living part, would collect enough water to get heavy enough to sink, and they're just perfectly preserved.
Wow.
This was in an area, it was permafrost. So as permafrost receded with climate change, this they dug this up, and it was a, you know, old log. They threw it aside to cut and burn, but when they started to cut into it, it was blue, and that was fascinating enough that they had it carbon dated at about 3,000 years old.
That is insane.
So again, it's not petrified, it's not fossilized, it was in the freezer preserved, and it's got the stuff.
And all of these not only look beautiful in different ways, but they create different sounds, right?
They create different sounds. That's a beautiful way to put it. Not better or worse, different.
Yeah.
These are like spices, flavors in a chef's kitchen, or colors on an artist's palette. They're personal choices.
Right.
There's really not a right or wrong. This is a piece of wood we got conventional, like from a lumber yard.
Okay.
It was part of a NAMM trade show display cabinet, and it's where you buy wood. It was probably cut in the last year or two, dried in an oven, so it's stable. And you can make a guitar that would be fine. In fact, large companies building for a price target would source this stuff because what they pay for wood is important for the final price, right?
And what kind of wood is this?
This is mahogany.
Mahogany.
And it's awesome because mahogany is light, strong, stable, carves beautifully, and you can color it look like any wood in the world.
Wow.
And it's a rainforest timber.
Okay.
It's really part of the problem of deforestation. So this is not for guitar making, for us.
Right. But it would be for most people.
Yeah. I'm not dismissive of cheaper guitars because they change the world. They're a beautiful thing. Our service is not affordability. It's the most sophisticated tool possible to express your creativity.
But we need all of it. You know?
That's right. Amen, we do. In this, buying wood for a price range, we get this stuff, and it's musical sounding, but it also dies quickly, and it's not as colorful as we want to start building a guitar. Bad Science, I got 2 different kinds of wood, 2 different sizes, but it's a good example. This is 3 years old, 2 years old.
Okay.
This is 1,500 years old. Okay. So let's listen to this.
Oh, my goodness. Oh.
That is
Are you getting
beautiful. That is, that's music.
That is amazing.
So here's the difference.
Oh my God. And what kind of wood is this?
This is cedar. Now, I picked these up at random, and they're like Bad Science.
Right, because they're different
This is a more
and,
resonant wood inherently than this, but that ringing clarity that sustains. There's 2 things going on in this. It's more resonant, so it sustains longer, and it develops overtones. It's rich, full sounding. It's important to say we don't need a 1,500-year-old piece of wood to make a great sounding guitar.
Right.
But we like to use this as a shameless attention-seeking device to explain the story of reclamation.
Yeah.
We don't have to compromise our values to get the best sounding stuff in the world.
Right.
In fact, we're going to use this secret of the violin makers to begin to use old wood. So let's go back to you as a player. With this, you're doing some recording stuff, you're playing for your own enjoyment, you're doing a variety of things. If you were playing strictly bluegrass, you'd probably want a real predominant bass, right? That's what people like in bluegrass. If you were doing classical or jazz, you'd hate that guitar.
Yeah.
You'd want it very even, so you as the artist could decide what note's going to be loud and soft, and you'd want to make a guitar that was pretty even in the EQ. So we're going to start right here. This top is not a uniform thickness because we're going to start to control this bass and treble volume right here. You listen to the tone over all of this, but this can be a right-handed guitar. I assume.
I am right-handed.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yep.
Got that right. This, our treble string is going to be on this side of the top, our bass string is on this side. So we're going to start dialing in the distance between the volume of bass and treble here. I love this. This is
I smelled it when you brought it out.
Yeah, that's great. This is this was from a tree that was involved in a fire, and this is redwood, and it's really, really, really antique. Here's a nice European. This comes from the Italian-Swiss border. Nice, kind of glassy.
Yeah.
That really will showcase your playing style. So now we're not listening to the high or low frequency. That's the EQ.
Okay.
We're listening to the bright or the clear. So these notes will be different, but you'll hear a difference in the clarity. So this one, and then this one.
Oh my goodness.
So that, see how that's like not as edgy?
Very different. I didn't expect it to be that different. I was thinking, man, I hope I hear the difference.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's really obvious. Yeah, that's music to my ears, because that's really gonna be a good partner for me to play my guitar with. This is where we've glued braces on this, but we haven't done anything to them. We just cut them on a saw.
Okay.
And that's very much like the efficiency in a factory. You cut them to a size, you glue them on, you're done.
So they're all just rectangular pieces of wood cut?
Yeah, because we're going to carve them to tune them and put them in harmony. So this guitar is, what we're trying to do here, we're trying to enhance the bass. A big guitar like a Dreadnought is inherently bassy, because the airspace is large and it's going to be more bass in the mix. A smaller guitar is going to be more even because the treble is going to be more. But you can gain that. You can change that. And that's what we've done here. This is counterintuitive. This is a little guitar which should be real even, let's say, or weaken the bass. But what we did here is we're on the treble side here and the bass here because we're upside down. Remember, stiffness promotes treble, flexibility promotes bass. Wow. So what we did here on the treble is we took all this material out, we weakened it, made it less stiff, and we dropped the treble volume.
Goodness.
Okay, on this, out here in the bass, we scooped this out to make this whole area more flexible, and that boosts the bass to bring this little guitar up to have a little bit predominant bass. If we wanted to go even further, we'd scallop these here and move these peaks out. So those are just like moving the sliders on a graphic equalizer to get the mix that's going to be right for this one customer's playing style.
Well, it's a visual work of art. I mean, in and
it's
of
pretty,
itself.
isn't it?
Yeah,
it's pretty. And there's a pride usually gets in the way of your results, and it's real expensive to entertain pride. But there is a gratification in doing nice, clean work and knowing you're adding value. You know, truly making other people happy is the thing that really makes ourselves happy. And in doing this work and thinking about the results for another is gratifying. You know, if you're just putting in your time, not so much.
And I think in this country, I'm happy to say that I believe there's been a rebirth in the appreciation of the artisan in everything from craft beer to guitars to anything like that. Whereas for a while, for like, you know, a few decades, maybe from the 40s to the 90s.
Good choice,
Yeah, it was like anything that was made by a giant manufacturer would be better and inherently better somehow, versus now I think we're rediscovering.
That's really well put.
Thank you. Yeah,
that's really well put.
Artisan.
I've lived in an awesome time, and I've seen quite a paradigm shift in the culture. So, I was born not too long after World War II, and man, that was a paradigm shift. So the world was at war, and we won, which means there was an explosion of consumerism, right? Everything, cars, houses, guitars, people were buying stuff because we were rich. And with that, we really were into control. Martin went from a company about this size to, in the folk scare, really grew. And
that's why people say pre-war Martin, pre-war Martin, pre-war Martin.
Yeah, that was it. Before World War II, what the market demanded was a certain price, and they evolved to that. After World War II, the market wanted more.
Yeah, more.
They evolved to that.
Yeah.
When I first moved to Santa Cruz, people were trying to, we call this a farmer's market now, but people were trying to sell food they grew, and they're being arrested because what kind of an idiot would buy food that someone just pulled out of the ground? It needs to be grown with things to kill the disease and the weeds and sterilized, and everything we did was more and more controlled in that regard. And then
even baby formula.
Yeah, that's right.
versus the natural
that's why
source.
I'm the way I am. But then everything changed we call it the 60s, but it wasn't the 60s. It's somewhere between 1950 something and 1970 something, and people really reacted to that and started making their own stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there was this myth of specialization. People didn't work on their guitars. They didn't have any connection with the food they ate, the machines that they used, and then it all changed and people wanted to start doing it themselves. They blew up the myth of specialization. People started doing pottery, making candles, making guitars, doing whatever, learning how to work on their cars. And today we see that more and more as part of the culture. So you chose the 90s. I'm choosing the what we call the 60s as that shift. And that's
well, that's because you live in California and I live in South Carolina. It took
a
little while to get across the country.
Yeah, but that really is it. And guitar making was no different. It's like, wow, how do they make these? I want to make one.
Good
morning, sir. Will's preparing all these little components to do the decorative binding on this. In the acoustic guitar, traditionally, the binding was a decorative, protected the edge, and it looked nice. And that's really what it was for. In the violin tradition, that little black, white, black line that we see, that wasn't for decoration. That was to control the projection of the violin. Do you ever wonder how that little tiny airspace can acoustically cut through the orchestra and project all the way back in the concert hall? It's magic.
Yeah.
They did a little groove, a little channel right inside the side on the violin, and it was like it was filled up with this purfle that wasn't solid wood. The wood was ground up and rolled out like a fiber. So let's consider like a paper or cardboard.
Yeah.
You go, what's that have to do with resonance? That's anti-resonance, and that's what it was for. It blocked vibration from going from the top through into the sides and the framework of the violin and directing volume at the player. Who cares what the violin sounds like behind it? You want to direct it out front. So that little purfle, that fiber purfle, the vibration wouldn't move through it. And the only place it could go is back to the top, pump twice as much air that then went out the F-holes to the audience. Cool, huh? I'm going to use a kind of a composite story about production.
Okay.
In production, of course, with price being the target.
And this is not the way y'all produce,
no, this is
to be
not
clear.
Ours, is probably what's the most common one today, the state-of-the-art and finish on guitars, would be a UV reactive polymer. You suspend it in a solvent, you spray it on the guitar, shine UV light on it, or ultraviolet light, bink, it gets hard, you know?
Right, yeah.
So the advantage to the maker is that's a lot more profitable when you take less time, and that can be passed on in the retail price to the player. Very good. The drawback for us is it's a little heavy. You know, we tapped on that guitar that was tuned, and it was like super resonant. It'd be a shame to go backwards on what we put on it. The other one is it's not as expensive looking as we need. In our price range, we really want it to look like $1 million. Okay? And then finally, it's not so restorable. You know, you break it, you could patch it up, but it'd be probably not worth the return on investment to make it look new again.
Right.
But you know, of course, the price, a lot of goods we buy, not being concerned about its future because we got a great deal.
Right.
Okay. So this stuff, instead of like polyester or polyurethane, it's the fibers of cotton again, our old friend cellulose. The guitar is made out of cellulose as wood, and we're taking cellulose in cotton that's dissolved in a solvent. We get clear liquid cellulose that's sprayed on the guitar, and when we're finished and the solvent is evaporated, it's it's coated in what it's made out of. There's a compatibility of resonance. There's a super expensive look once it's polished.
Yeah.
And if you break it, you can dissolve it and apply more lacquer, amalgamate new lacquer, make it look new again.
Oh, wow.
So all of those give such added value. That's the stuff for us.
Richard, I can't tell you enough, man. It's truly an honor to meet you. It's an honor to meet Carolyn, to meet the whole team, to see the way you guys work, taking us to the woods, you know, treating us like family while we're here. It's just been an incredible experience, and of course, you know, selfishly, I mean, it's the experience of a lifetime that you're going to work with me to build a guitar. It just couldn't have been better. So thank you for everything. We appreciate it.
Jason, my pleasure. You guys were like family. You treated us respectfully. We had a blast, you know. I got to do some of my favorite things, you know, go in the woods, talk about guitars. And, you know, that's really my big gratitude here, is not only do we get to make guitars for a living, which is pretty dreamy, but the people we deal with they come in happy, they leave happier, they're tolerant, they're forgiving, and God knows we need that. Yeah. And so that is really gratifying.